Welcome to New Game Plus, a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
Nolan here.
And...
Oh, man. It sucks.
And it's weird. It's rare.
Yeah, we haven't done this many times. I think the last time was anyways. Kenny's not here.
Kenny's not here, but honestly, I do think there's probably been less than 10 times that one of us have been missing from an episode since the birth of our podcast.
It's only a handful. I've never missed.
That's false.
You've missed the most. Kenny has only missed like 3 times.
No.
I think the last time it was just the two of us, it was Pokemon Pinball. I do remember, and it was not good.
Well, that's a good memory. I know that Kenny has usurped the throne and the title. He now has missed the most, but also, Nolan, you've missed a fair amount as well.
Fair amount? I've missed one. Because of a death.
This is episode 326.
Yeah, 326.
And during the 20th anniversary celebration of the Kingdom Hearts franchise, Square Enix and Disney announced 2 new Kingdom Hearts titles, but one is a mobile game, so we're not going to talk about it.
I was going to say, what's the second one, but that's why I don't know about it.
The other is, believe it or not, Kingdom Hearts 4.
I don't believe it. I thought the third one was the final one. I mean, I wouldn't know that for sure because I still haven't played it.
Really?
But I have it, and I should play it, but... Yeah, that one, we waited forever on. I'm a fourth one? What? Already?
There's two conversations I want to have. One is, I can't believe you haven't played Kingdom Hearts 3 because I thought you were, at one point in time, a Kingdom Hearts boy.
I was, at one point in time, a Kingdom Hearts boy, but I don't have my PlayStation hooked up, and I'm not going to hook it up. That's insane.
Do you hook up a PlayStation?
Kidding? Are you going to hook up a console in 2022? That's crazy.
Okay, and then the other conversation I want to have is between Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3. Weren't there about 32 other Kingdom Hearts games that came out?
Yeah. Yes.
Day of the Dawn 3.5, Breath of the Wild 3, all of these in-between games. And did we get any between 3 and 4?
Probably. I don't know, but probably because they pop them out. I mean, they got side games on side games. But apparently a lot of them are good.
Did you see the trailer?
I did.
Okay. It is a very different aesthetic from other Kingdom Hearts games.
It's modern. Yeah, it's Earth. It's modern.
It's modern. It's realistic. It looks like a Final Fantasy 15 game, or a Final Fantasy game. Sora is no longer cartoon. Sora... is a realist. I mean, he's still animated.
He still looks like Sora, but it's kind of a different graphical engine, maybe, or just presentation of him. I thought the trailer's kind of bad. I thought hype, sure, hype for fans, and I think it was hype. What happened in it, it just looked and it's early development, so it's gonna look like this. I was just it kind of looks thrown together 5 seconds before the presentation.
Well,
I don't know.
I've only played Kingdom Hearts the first, and so I don't have much input here. I just thought graphically it was very interesting because it is different. We didn't see any other Disney worlds or anything like that. Although there are rumors that we're going to get Star Wars and
I believe that,
and maybe even Marvel because Disney owns everything now. So
there'll be some big hitters in there, which can be good, can also be bad, depends on the direction they go. But we did get our 2 beloved characters at the end.
D and G are back.
D and G, yeah, of course.
And
the Japanese Goofy voice is funny to me. It's just really funny.
I mean, the Goofy voice just in general is pretty goofy.
But I don't know.
Well, I don't know if Sora is in a realistic world, how they travel to different worlds, or if this is just going to be one of the weird Quarks in the game. And Quark, by the way, is the name of the dragon in the retro game of the week that we played. And so, Lunar. I know, but not everyone did, so it takes a little bit of explanation.
Well, if you explain the segue, you kind of dig a hole, and it becomes a whole thing.
A whole thing if I dig a hole? Like in our retro game of the week, Lunar, the Silver Star.
Overview.
Lunar, the Silver Star, is a 1992 JRPG for the Sega CD, or for the Mega CD outside of North America. And while it began there, it didn't conclude there. This game has been quickly ported and remade and released to a variety of home and handheld consoles.
Like, maybe more than a lot of other RPGs. Like, when I was looking it up, I was like, wait, PS1 release, cool. Wait, PSP release, what? GBA? Like,
yeah, and
it's all over.
Maybe more than, and just more like
diverse.
Sooner than. Well, I'm saying like,
because
like some JRPGs will get remade over time, 10, 20 years, but this one is like within a 2-3 year span, we've got multiple iterations of this game. I think maybe in part because it came out on the Sega CD, which was an attachment to a console.
Yeah, can we hold on? I just am so fascinated. It is not a console. It is a console add-on. It's an accessory to the Genesis. So like you literally take this like tray out of your Genesis and plug it in, and it sits, well, depending on the version you have, either below the Genesis or on the side of it, and it accepts CDs as games. Sega, I know we talk about Nintendo being innovative, like, and always like pushing boundaries and everything. I think I'm more of a Sega fanboy when I really think about it, because I loved the Genesis, and they were getting crazy creative. This modular console, you could also put in the 32X into the Genesis and have this like Frankenstein console. And they did that like streaming service through your cable.
Oh
connection.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
They were just doing stuff. I mean, it wasn't all successful, don't get me wrong, but they were doing it.
And I wonder if that's why one of the main reasons why this game was ported so quickly is because they probably, like, not everyone has the accessory, right? Like, if you just put it out for the console, more people are going to play it. But the accessory... But dude,
also, it was so expensive.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
It was like the equivalent of paying like almost $1,000 in our time for a console add-on. It's
wow.
Like, don't need that.
So not many people are going to do it, but then they created a game just for that. And when they probably saw, hey, or realized we've got something good here, then they probably were like, we've got to get it to more people. And so
I think you're right.
They re-released it. That's what it sounds like. I had no experience with this game or this series until this week, and I think you're in the same shoes?
Yeah, of course. I had never even heard the title. Usually I'm like, okay, I've heard of this JRPG series. I know it's a big deal, but I was like, okay, whatever. I've never heard this name.
And I had heard of the title, I think mainly because there are individuals in our community that for months now have placed this game or a version of it in the Patreon pools.
Oh, lucky. Got lucky. It wasn't even a Patreon pool.
Right. It's always fun when a game gets selected from the randomizer that was a part of or submitted multiple times in the pool. It's just funny how that works.
Yeah, that's really lucky for them. And also, apparently, this is like the best Sega CD game. There aren't a ton of Sega CD games. I think the catalog across all countries is like 200 games. That's it. Okay. And this one's like apparently the best. So it makes sense that for those few, they're obsessed with it.
Have we played any Sega CD games on the podcast?
I think so. We haven't played Sonic CD.
Right, and that's another big one on it.
That's another really big one. A lot of people's favorite Sonic, 2D Sonic, but I can't remember which one we played.
I don't know if I feel like we've never played one on there, but we may have played a game that was also on the Sega
like a
CD.
port. Yeah. I
feel like it may have been something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but this game was developed by Game Arts and Studio Alex, published by Game Arts, and then translated and localized by Working Designs for a North American audience. The story is, it's the first game in the series. It's set in a high fantasy setting in the magical land of Lunar. And you take on the role of Alex, a 15-year-old boy from a small town with dreams to become an adventurer. And it starts like any other JRPG. You're just like, you and your friend are going out and collecting a diamond. But you meet a dragon. You end up probably like saving the world and killing God at the end. I don't know. Probably something like that. Nolan, you would know how factual that is. I would because, spoiler alert, you played from the beginning of the game to the middle of the game and from the middle of the game to the end of the game this week.
That is the progression of how I played the game, yes.
And that is remarkable because you don't typically do that.
No, you're the JRPG boy, but I was in a mood this week. I don't know. I was like, sure, I'll play a JRPG, and yeah, I just ended up beating it.
Gameplay.
I mean, it's like any Square JRPG, the setup. Like you got your overworld map, you've got your towns, you got your talking, you've got your party members, and you've got your turn-based combat.
And your dungeons.
So we'll break all those down, but like that's the entry point for the game. So if you like Final Fantasy, this is the same paradigm, which is funny because, and everyone did this at the time, they kept saying like, this is a different kind of RPG. And it's like, dude, that statement doesn't age well. Why do y'all say that all the time?
And why do you think, what were they working off of? Were they just saying it just to like...
They were just saying it.
I guess
because it's on the Sega CD.
Well,
like,
that's okay.
only angle. It's like, this expensive add-on, sure, it's different. Many people aren't going to play it.
And anyways, again, we'll probably talk about this in the age section more, but I wonder if they were speaking to some of the like things that they were kind of doing ahead of their time with the audio front, maybe.
I think so, and that's fair to say, but to present the setup of the game as a different kind of RPG is absurd to me because, again, it is your normal formula, which worked. I mean, in 93, come on, that's what you do. But you play as Alex and you start in his hometown, and the first thing that I noticed, and it took me a minute to get used to, I didn't like it at first, but I ended up being in love with it, is this like guided movement. That is okay. Me too.
Weird at first because so different. But man, if you just hold a direction, your character doesn't stop whenever it hits an obstacle. It goes around, and it's a intelligent design because if you're in a dungeon, it knows it, like if there's an exit nearby, it will filter you or funnel you towards that exit.
Or if there's a corner close to you, it'll be like, oh yeah, let's go that way, and you're just holding up.
Or Nolan, if you're just in a space where there's a character nearby, and you press A, it will finish the distance.
Auto walk.
This is a small thing,
no,
but
it's huge.
It's a huge quality of life thing,
dude. It's like. At first I was like, what is the game doing? Because it's so unfamiliar.
So
But every JRPG after this should have done it. It is such a nice quality of life that I didn't know I wanted. But oh my goodness, it's good.
That's the first gameplay thing you're bringing up, which is great. But I guess it's one of the first things you notice. And
yes.
It doesn't work 100% of the time. There are times where like I found myself kind of like doing some circles and didn't know what was going on. Another thing that kind of annoys me there is, for some reason, it seems like it resets anytime you enter into a new space.
Yeah, and if you're holding up, you'll just not move.
So you have to let it go. And again, this is such a small thing, but I love that you brought it up because it's so funny. Here, let me bring up another relatively small thing, but that made a big impact on me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so in most JRPGs, you are gaining experience when you kill enemies. And only kill enemies. In this game, like in Dungeons and Dragons sometimes, you get experience when you complete quests.
That's my next note point.
Are you for real? The smallest things.
We're just caring about the smallest things. And maybe they were onto something with different kind of RPG now that I think about it.
Yeah, dude. I love that because especially me who loves story and characters so much, when you accomplish something story-based, you get a massive amount of experience and most likely level up, if not at least once, twice, 3 times, 4 times because of the amount of experience you get.
It made the errandy quests that are always in these games, that are like fetch quests, that are like really meaningful. Like they didn't feel as bad. And that's good. That's just a good feeling to get a chunk of XP that's like significantly more than beating just a random encounter. Like, yes, I like that.
I'll tether something else onto that. In most JRPGs, I am not talking to all the townspeople because most of the scripting there doesn't provide anything fresh or new. It doesn't give you any more information or world building. It's kind of just a waste of time from my experience. Now, I know there's games that are anomalies there and do something differently. And I know there are gamers that talk to everybody, but I historically haven't. Here, even with a guide, I talk not to everybody, but it made it rewarding because there was stuff that was being added by almost every character there. They would not only give you hints about like where a town is located, which was important because there's no map in this game that you can access. There is later or what?
No, it's in the booklet, but it's like a crude it's like concept art, and it's not helpful.
Right. Not only do they help direct you to certain locations, but like even like passable characters will play an important role, or like they need an item that you can go get kind of as a side quest, or that one is building a hot air balloon that you can eventually take a fated ride in. Like they all have like some kind of purpose or character. Some of them will play blackjack with you, and you can gain money that way.
Totally rigged, by the way.
It is.
I tried a million times. It's broken. Doesn't work.
Really? See, and I saw someone else say that, and I could win regularly.
Oh, no. See, okay, that might be a good transition into the RNG built into this game.
Okay.
But back to your point about the talking to people. Yes, you get a lot of story, and I do think a lot of that is due to the localization efforts that they made, because the dialogue's solid, and they made changes where they needed to make changes in order for an English audience to be like, yeah, good. Like in the song lyrics, it's very. I read the Japanese like hard translation, and it's like so mushy, like cringy. So, but they changed it to make sense, and a lot of the like NPC dialogue is like actual lore and story points, and I'm like, I appreciated that. That actually added something to my experience, but it's such a chore to talk to everybody. I forget to do it, but it was good.
JRPGs typically have a good amount of story, but I feel like this one was maybe even more heavy story. Like a lot of the things that you're doing were heavy story. You've got a party that you're building. People are filtering in and out. Kind of reminded me some of Fire Emblem in that regard. Like you've got some characters. And
I'll take that, yeah.
It's not just a roster of one or two, although sometimes you do have a party of one or two. Sometimes you have a party of 6, like,
sure.
And they are filtering in and out at different times based on the story. And one of the things I really love are these character introductions, because it will take you out of the isometric JRPG view, and it will give you this kind of cut scene where you've got a really well drawn character model portrait and a little like a brief bio or a brief introduction or something.
A little song that plays,
with a little song that plays, and I thought that was super cool.
I love that too. Like all the meaningful characters get their little moment, even the villains too. Like you get to highlight like who they are, and in detail you get to see like their portrait and stuff. Love that. Something that stood out to me when in contrast to other JRPGs, especially at the time, the random encounter rate is super inconsistent.
Yeah.
Like, that's overworld walking. Usually, if you're trying to grind out levels, it's pretty straightforward. You just kind of, watch YouTube while you're just walking, and you'll get into encounters. You can go over a minute of straight walking and not get into an encounter, and at the same, like, in the next dungeon, 2 steps. Every 2 steps, you get one, and it's like, what? Like, I don't know what they did behind the scenes to code that encounter rate, but it doesn't feel great.
Completely agree. Wildly inconsistent. And it feels like, so there are times where like I was like, something's broken because I wasn't getting in an encounter, and so I would save it and I reloaded it, and then I would get in an encounter again. So like it like seems to reset or something. I don't know. It's poor design there, honestly, with that. And if we'll link that, I think some of the dungeons are poorly designed, or at least uninspired. Some of them are extra long for no reason other than to pad game length. And they're maze-like, which is not uncommon, but when the mazes are this massive, it is so painful to have to like retrace your steps. And there's very little reward, because although there might be a few treasure chests in the dungeon, they've got herbs. Like
low-level consumables like throughout the whole game. Even in-game, you're like, really? Like that's so I just stopped opening them unless the guide told me to, because like what? Because your inventory space, which we'll talk about, is like limited. But like it was so gross that they didn't even try to hide the fact that they were making these maze, like they're just weaving you back and forth in these dungeons to go to another staircase, and then on the next floor you do the same thing but vertically, and it's just like you can't do that. You can do it once, twice, sure, but like they're the same dungeon every time, and it's frustrating.
And even when they simplified it, it wasn't. It was kind of even worse, because it was just a square room where a door was here and a door right beside it was the other one. Like.
And another thing that like pissed me off this week.
Yeah. Are you gonna say the item that you used?
I got burned and I didn't do it again. There's an escape rope for Pokemon fans in this game called a wind essence, and it will take you to the front of the dungeon so you don't have to backtrack.
Yeah.
I had one in my inventory. I was in a special zone, like the Dragon Story Beat zone, and I used it, and it was like, oh, you can't use that here. And I was like, cool, I'll go back into the dungeon to use it. And it consumed the item from my inventory.
Bad.
Are you kidding me? So I had to, and this was one of the biggest abusers or offenders of that maze thing we're talking about. And I was like, are you kidding me? I had to backtrack, and it took me like 30 minutes to finally guess the exit. Yeah. Not cool.
Shouldn't do that. That's very frustrating. Let's talk about the combat, because that is a little bit divergent from your typical JRPG. So here there are random encounters. By the way, I believe in future iterations of Lunar, it's not random encounters. I think the enemies are visible on the screen.
Chrono Trigger style or something?
Yeah. Is that not that? I mean, that's a big difference. It's an interesting choice that they would make, because I don't hate random encounter. You just need a better random encounter rate. Mm-hmm. But in this combat, it's turn-based, so that's the same. And kind of like ATB, it's hidden, like active time, but like based on your different speeds of your characters, they might move before someone else, but you're still selecting all of your characters' moves for that round, and then everybody moves. The thing that's different here is that you're not like on the right side of the screen and the enemies are on the left. Enemies can, all the time, they can be at different places, and they move. Both the enemies and your characters move across the screen to be able to do the damage. So you set your party up from the beginning, and then they might not be able to reach the enemy that they're trying to fight. And so it kind of is a wasted turn. It just repositions them. And so it takes some getting used to, but I ended up liking it.
Yeah, that also reminded me of Fire Emblem. It's got a strategy game kind of feel to it, in that with the movement component, but you're not selecting where they're moving. So that also is hidden, and it's hard to know if you're too far or not. Like if you're going to make it to the enemy to attack. That only happened like in like one boss fight for me, where I was like, I don't know if I should attack or use magic from a distance. So I think it works well. Like however they designed that to work behind the scenes works. And I thought it was fair. And I really enjoyed it. And as your characters get stronger, I saw the results in how far they can move, how many attacks they can do. And it was pretty straightforward. I really like this battle system.
Yeah, I also love... so your Alex, your main character, has a little Pokemon named Null.
Null.
And Kenny, I bet you loved Null.
Oh, Kenny definitely loved Null.
Kenny's not here. Sorry.
I loved Null.
It's this like little flying cat, right? That's kind of what it is.
Well, do you want a spoiler?
No, it's a freaking dragon.
Then it's
you
a
idiot.
cat. Then it's a cat. Then it's a cat.
And it talks, and it's so annoying. But it's nice because in battle you've actually got your three options at first are like attack, null, or escape.
Run. Yeah.
And if you choose null, Null gives you a brief overview of the battle. It doesn't help tremendously, but it names the enemies you're facing, and it tells you the kind of like difficulty that you should be expecting, which I love. I mean, that's a cool little addition.
Fun. Yeah, of course. Throw that in there.
It's like Scan in Final Fantasy, except it doesn't tell you their health, but it gives you a little bit of information that
and
helps
it's free.
Know.
It doesn't consume your turn, so you get to attack right after. So, and there's also one last piece of the combat. There's an AI system or button that basically just decides what your units are going to do, which 99% of the time is attack.
Oh yeah.
Or flee. So I typically would I sometimes used it if I was just like grinding levels, but I would usually just manually select what I wanted to do.
I thought of one other quality of life thing when it comes to the battle stuff.
Yeah.
It's so small, Nolan.
Hit me.
But like the cursor memory. It remembers what you last selected.
Yes.
So if you attacked last,
That's
it will be attack on that character. But if you use magic on a different character, it will start there. You won't always want to do the same, but that's so nice.
So nice.
Again, in Final Fantasy VII and other Final Fantasies, I think you have a setting that you can change it to where it remembers where you were, but it's not the default setting. Here it's the default setting, and it's just so nice.
I liked it, yeah.
It's so dumb to talk about these small things. Okay. I want to talk about one other thing here, and it's in the era of video games where it happened. It's not an excuse, but it was happening, where it is difficult to know what your items do or what your magic does or what your armor does. And in game,
it's impossible.
Zero explanation.
It's impossible, actually.
Zero explanation, and that is not okay, and you could have done better.
It's not okay because there's a bar at the bottom that like, they could have done scrolling text. It's Sega CD. They could have done scrolling text next to the name to say, like, this is to escape. Don't, like, I agree. And if you have the booklet, I had it pulled up this week.
Same.
It is helpful for a lot of the consumables, but not all of them. It also lists what the magic does, which was helpful because there's, again,
zero.
There's no explanation. So you have this long list. You get a lot of magic in this game, by the way, of like, and not accurately like named, like Cascade Litany. What do you think that does? Right. It's all those are named weird, and so not okay. There's got to be something that tells you what to do with it, and they do have good sprite work on them. But, like, wing essence is a pot with wings. Like, that's not descriptive enough to let you know what that's going to do.
Right. And you probably have, like, 5 or 6 health items that you can use. Meal rations, herb, calm herb, like, all of these different things. And it's guesswork, really.
It's guesswork.
And then you'll even, like, get things later that are just good for selling and making money off of them, like jewels. But you won't know that. You won't know that. And so, like...
there are diamond rings and gold rings,
right?
That you think you equip
because you equip other rings,
because you equip cascade rings and other stuff, but it's just for selling. It's not cool. Like, you'll get through the game, yes, because equipment is straightforward enough. Like, yeah, I need a sword, shield, helmet, but like it's just better if you don't have to guess for items.
Well, and it will be frustrating. Exceedingly frustrating because you have limited inventory space and you don't even have a storage place. The one storage place that does show up is a thief that will steal your items that you store.
He's a character that previously in the story stole an item. He's like, I'm reformed. I'm not going to do it anymore. Yeah. He opens up a bank and he's like, hey, I'll take your items now. I'm a nice guy now. You don't get them back.
No, and that's so good.
You can screw yourself over. That's really funny. Before we end gameplay, one more quality of life I got for you. Ready?
What is it?
Fast travel staff.
Well, spoiler, but dude, once you get those dragon wings, white wings, what are they called?
Yes, the dragon wings.
Game changing. You can travel between any village that you've been in without having to walk across the world map for free multiple times. So you could be out grinding dude, after that, I started using that dragon magic that I got that was like 30 MP, 40 MP.
So strong,
and because I would just be able to like pour it back and heal up to get back to this. It was just so nice. It's such a quality of life. And when you're able to get things along the way that really do make you feel more powered up, it's always nice there.
Aged.
This is the second highest Sega CD selling title of all time. Is a weird way to say that.
Yeah.
This was one of the most popular Sega CD titles.
Okay.
Why? I wonder if it's because the rest of the catalog's that bad, or if this just really stuck with people because of the things that we've been freaking out about that it quote unquote did different at the time. But when I look at age of a JRPG, story is one of those things that really stands out to me as like it's either aged well or it hasn't. And this one aged as expected. I mean, what I mean by that is it didn't do anything insane in terms of storytelling, but it was good, and the translation was good, and so I think it gets a pass on that front. I'm just wondering, like, is it just the nature of the Sega CD capabilities that made this one so popular?
The game in particular?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's got to be.
I think it's the quality, right? That's what I think, because most of the games that I don't know about most of the games. Some of the games at least that you're getting on the Sega CD, you could get elsewhere. So I believe, like the Sonic game, the Echo. I think Echo the Dolphin made it on here. The Batman Returns. There are other games that like you can play
a version of it on the Sega CD.
Just the Genesis.
Yeah, yes,
yeah,
exactly. Yes.
Or so like you don't have to, but this at first was just here, and so it's like exclusive Sega CD.
It's exclusive. That's true.
And so I think that probably had something to do with it. I wonder, was it the first JRPG or first RPG on the console?
I don't know. There are a few on there that people reference. Another one being a sequel to this game, but could be. I don't know.
I also just think because of the quality of the game.
Let's just talk about what they could do with the CD format.
With CD format, you have got music like you do not have at this time. I mean, you've got CD quality music, and it is high quality, orchestral. It's not 8-bit, and I love 8-bit. It's not like the bit sounds, and I love those sounds. But when you're able to have like a fully orchestrated soundtrack, and then you can have tons of songs. You can have lengthy songs. You can have songs with depth. And not only that, you can have voice acting.
Voice acting.
In 1992.
In 1992, on the Genesis, technically, it's like an add-on for the Genesis. Like, that's crazy. And it sounded really good. Apparently, the Japanese voice acting's better here, which
sure.
But like, still, I was like impressed. Like immediately, and you did in your first play, you were like, what?
Well, it shocked me at first because that's just unexpected for a 92 JRPG.
And it was Null's voice too, so it was kind of like, what am I hearing?
It's a really rough one to begin with.
There's like singing in the intro cutscene. It's like, wow.
It just CDO audio, especially during this time, is unparalleled. You're not going to get as good as quality, and then with the voice acting on top of that, it's remarkable. I guess with CD storage space, I guess you just have access to graphics as well. So most of the gameplay looks good, but doesn't look exceptionally remarkable compared to some other JRPGs. However, you've got FMVs.
FMV, baby.
And you've got these cutscenes that are... And I love a lot of their cutscenes aren't even like these full motion. It's just kind of like these images, but it's very anime, very colorful. It looks great. There's just a lot of visual work here and audio work here that is stunning.
Yes. So apparently the Sega CD added more CPU, like another CPU to assist with the Genesis CPU. So like that's where they could boost up those graphics. And dude, there were some of those cutscenes where it made me look at the controller I was holding and be like, whoa, this is the console I play Sonic on. Right. Like, I mean, yes, it's an add-on. It's kind of a console, but not really. It's just an add-on. Like, I was so impressed with the visuals. And even it did have some muted colors that I've seen screenshots of Eternal Blue, the sequel, and it looks much more vibrant and looks better overall. But even with those muted colors, it kind of fits with the tone of the game. And man, I was stunned all week long just thinking about what Sega CD was, and I want to play more games on it because of the presentation of both the music and the audio. I mean, and the graphics here.
I meant to ask you earlier, you got to play with your Sega controller this week. Was that fun?
Oh, it was
good?
Perfect. I mean, yeah, you got me an 8-bit do M30, which is just I think it's like the controller that you could use on the Saturn. It has the 6 buttons instead of just ABC. But this game just uses ABC, and it felt so nice to use. That D-pad, dude, they got that right.
So nice. You had mentioned the sequel, Eternal Blue. It came out in 1994, also for the Sega CD. And then I believe that's the only true sequel to this game, because there are other spin-offs of this game. But
oh, okay, I see.
I think Eternal Blue might be the only one there. But then we mentioned it up front. There are at least 3 remakes to this game. So there's Silver Star Story Complete, which came out for the Sega Saturn, the PlayStation, and the PC. There's a game called Lunar Legend, which is the same-ish game, but that came out for the Game Boy Advance.
Oh my gosh.
I've heard to really stay away from that one. And then there is Silver Star Harmony, which is the same game, but remade for the PSP.
Don't rename it like that. From what I hear, the PlayStation version is the one to check out. But that's the one people are like, I love.
So I did a lot of studying and comparison this week.
Okay.
And yes, Silver Star Story Complete, from my understanding, is basically the same game, but just updated and a few more quality of life things that were added there.
Oh, wow.
Like, I think one of the things that they do is at the beginning, and this isn't necessarily quality of life, but Luna, is that her name? The girl that is your kind of like adopted sister who is someone else,
GF.
Whatever, shut up.
Incest.
She comes with you at the beginning instead of like leaving her in the village like you did. She actually comes with you, and so like there's some different changes like that, but it's basically the same game. Lunar Legend for the GBA is a completely different kind of game. They took the story a few different kind of places, and it's chibi artwork, which is fine, but it's a very different vibe here.
Not my favorite. Then
Silver Star Harmony for the PSP, actually, some prefer that because it is. I don't like the graphics as much because they kind of do the like more full out character models and it's not necessarily my favorite, but a really cool portable version of the game. So both of those are seen as really good things. Before we move on from Asia, I wanted to tell you something. I should have brought it up last week, and I hate to do it without Kenny here, but I'll bring it up again next week probably. We have got someone in our community, in our NGP community, who last week began remixing a song from the game of the week each and every week.
Oh, that's cool. What?
And they started last week. Do you remember what last week's game was?
No, I never remember what last week's game was.
Pickle Wars.
I don't. What was it?
Pickle Wars.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't want to hear that.
He remixed that first song that you were taught that you made a big deal about.
The song.
He made it better. This week he remixed the Berg village theme. So Alex's home village theme. He remixed it.
I have to wait. Shout them out. Do you know their name?
Yeah,
because I gotta hear that.
I'll spell it out. I believe it's Michael J, but it's Maickkel. Michael, I'm assuming J.
Michael J.
And
awesome.
Michael J has been remixing the songs from the Retro Game of the Week, and I think they're going to
cool.
continue to do that in the coming weeks. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Hey, maybe we'll even feature it on the episode at some point.
That's what I was just thinking.
Michael J, give us permission, and we'll talk about it. Okay. If you want a copy of Lunar, the Silver Star, $128 used, and $201 new.
Sega CD games are so expensive because, again, there's 200 of them.
Actually, I think that's right. I just wanted to make sure because I know that I think that version is the more expensive one, although. Right. Yeah, because the other versions are a little bit more accessible. Lunar, the Sega CD version is obviously the more expensive one there. So
rare titles.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for new gum.
Oh.
Gum.
Okay. Gum?
New Game Plus status.
What it feels like to chew 5.
Which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other, but since it's just us two, I believe it has to be both of us.
Oh,
has to be both of us.
That's not good.
I'm going to go first because you completed the game this week, so I think you have the most well-rounded
fair
opinion here. So I'll let you conclude it.
Okay.
it's games like Lunar the Silver Star that help remind me that Final Fantasy did not have the corner market when it came to JRPGs.
Right.
It wasn't just Final Fantasy that was good, but I pretty much grew up just thinking JRPGs and Final Fantasy were synonymous. Unfortunately, just a lot of these didn't make it over to North America in time, or weren't as like around as much in North America as some other titles were, or weren't marketed as heavily. I mean, one of the problems here is I just did not own any of the Sega gear. So like,
and you wouldn't have bought a CD, or your parents wouldn't have bought a Sega CD. That's for
sure. No, they of course wouldn't have bought that. But again, we were a Nintendo household, and so we didn't even have a Sega Genesis or anything like that. So like, we didn't own any of that. So like, I never went this route. I know people are going to make fun of it just because when a JRPG comes up on the show, basically I'm giving it New Game Plus status, and I don't just do it because it's a JRPG, but there's some quality ones out there, and this is one of the ones that is absolutely remarkable. It's not perfect, and I hate even saying that. I need to stop saying that because nothing is. And I bet I didn't play, but I got to watch and experience some that Silver Star Story Complete for the PlayStation. I think that would have been boom right there for me, and I think it's probably near perfect of a game. I think this is heavy story, which I love. There's some really cool characters here, and it does things differently enough to not make it like the same thing as Final Fantasy or as some of these other JRPGs of the time. It's a unique enough title, and it does it well enough that I think you should certainly play this. And pick your version. Don't pick Lunar Legend for the GBA, but pick the version that you want to play, and you'll have a blast because this is an excellent title, an excellent JRPG. I definitely give it my vote for New Game Plus status.
Okay. Has to be both of us. I said at the beginning that it's annoying that they said that this was some sort of different JRPG, because it's not. It is not. And that's fine. Like, there were tons of JRPGs at this time, and they were all look alike, and it's fine. Like, that can happen. But man, I played through the whole game. I said earlier I was in a JRPG mood this week, and I just was like, why not? I'll try to beat it. It is a like perfect length of a JRPG. It wasn't too long. The grindy aspects of it, I feel, are kind of optional. Like, you're making the game harder for yourself if you don't, but if you do, you'll feel comfy, which is what I did. So like that, gets a check for me. But like, yeah, I'm with you on the quality. The presentation is through the roof. It's crazy, and it's a shame it was hidden behind I guess it was $300 back then, but like this huge paywall of owning a Sega CD in order to play it. Because I actually, I know those other versions are great, I'm sure. The PlayStation one's probably like fan favorite for good reason. But man, the original is impressive. And I would maybe recommend you start there. Like with emulation, you can play this game and get what it was like to play on the first version and kind of be blown away. I was blown away all week. This is a must-play RPG. It is great, and honestly, I cannot wait to play Eternal Blue on the podcast. I'll probably wait just to save it, but that one I bet is even better. This game has a great ending. Just in case you're wondering, it has a couple twists that are expected, but some that aren't. It's a great JRPG. You should play it.
Just to let you know, I am in Reza. It's the town with the bridges on the water, and the bridge falls. And so I think I'm over halfway through.
You are.
Depending on whatever retro game of the week that gets selected this week, I hope to keep playing and finish this game.
Dude,
because it isn't too. I think it's about a 20-hour JRPG probably.
Yeah,
so
that sounds right.
That's not too much, and you did it all in 1 week, which is absolutely great. Yeah. So, Lunar, the Silver Star, is New Game Plus certified.
Of course.
But what did you think? We had 329 votes on YouTube. 33% said yes, it's worth playing. 4% said no, and 64% have never played it because they didn't have $300 for
Sounds
an
right.
accessory.
I didn't either.
And then from our community. I'll read a few of those. Clint said, I didn't get to put in as much time as I wanted this week, but the first hour or so I got to spend with this one was very cool. I'm shocked to see the quality of voicing and animation in 92 on the Sega CD, and it is even better in the PS1 version I played. To me, the dungeons and combat felt like a Live Alive meets Earthbound, which is extremely awesome. This is one of those games I'll continue playing after this week for sure.
Yeah, they do a good job kind of capturing you from the intro of the game, like from that first cutscene, and then when you first get control, there are a couple things to take in, the controls being one of them, but yeah, they do a good job of like, hey, look at this, and you're like, oh.
I agree, and I think JRPGs can be overwhelming for a lot of gamers, especially at the beginning. It's like, what am I getting myself into? I think this one eases you in really well.
Yep.
Really well. Chris said, I just played Lunar Silver Star Story complete this year for the first time and had an absolute blast. There are a ton of quality of life upgrades in the PlayStation version, including no random battles. Luna actually joining you on the boat to Meridia, where she stays with the party as an active character for quite a while. So that's what I mentioned to you earlier. New major antagonists, a nice little epilogue, and a ton of other minor story differences. Lunar is a great characterization and a focus on romantic relationships that I'm not used to seeing in games from this generation. Although the main plot is a bit trite at the start, it evolves in ways I didn't see coming, and it's so endearing and heartfelt that I couldn't help but be engrossed throughout my time spent with the game. The difficulty required a bit too much grinding for my taste, but I never felt overwhelmed unfairly, and I always found a way to progress at each level. I was super happy with the time I spent this week. If you enjoyed Lunar 1, I urge you to play Lunar 2, as it does some really cool things with characters and combat that improves the experience.
There are more changes than I thought in the PlayStation 1. I'll want to revisit this at some point, and I'll do that version next, because that sounds great. More antagonists? Let's go.
Yeah, pretty cool. Budget Arcade said, this game had a special place in my heart. My late friend used to rave about it. I would watch him play when spending the night at his house during late middle school and early high school. After his passing years later, I finally picked up the game to play after adding it to the master list in hopes of getting played for a Patreon pool. This is one of those games that if you don't have the game manual, there's no way you'll know what any item is or what it does. That being said, the game still shines as a great JRPG with an engaging story. It gets my vote for New Game Plus and hopefully gets yours as well.
I love video games.
Brings
it's a good
people together.
connection. I'm so glad that we got to play it on the show, and not even for a Patreon pool. That's really special.
Yeah. And finally, Jay said, well, this week was a pretty fun experience for some reason. I had never heard of this game, but I think I fell in love. The translation was apparently pretty famous for having some funny stuff inserted into the translation, which added quite a lot of charm. The menus and art style made me think of one of my favorite SNES games, so it was a pretty nice surprise. The soundtrack was a very nice surprise as well, and I couldn't help but vibe through the adventure with it. Gameplay-wise, I love the fact that they added a mobility aspect to the game, adding the little bit of depth into planning my next move early on, so not to waste a turn. And voice acting at that time was a real surprise, and the story and translation were really pleasant to me, especially when I first met the White Dragon. I knew I was going to get some pretty fun surprises. It's definitely NGP from me. Now, I'm going to go back and play this gem.
Please do. Yeah, there is a lot of humor that they threw in here that's actually like kind of shocking at times. Like the character Kyle is like such a misogynist, but like his interactions with Jessica are really funny, like throughout the end game.
I also thought there was a lot of like weird like male-female humor content or like comments that were made like in pubs that you would go into and from just NPCs.
Like not okay stuff, and you're like,
yeah, kind of very uncomfortable. Hey, one thing that he mentioned there about like being able to move within the battle system, one of the things that I actually used from time to time was flee.
Yes.
It's not run, it's flee. So it moves you to a different place on the battlefield. And if you move away from slow-moving enemies, then you can get more attacks in before you get attacked. I thought it was super cool.
Yep.
Again, you said strategy earlier. There's some strategy to the gameplay. Thank you for sending in your thoughts on the Retro Game of the Week. You can do that each and every week. We had more people that wrote in. Can't include them all, but thank you. Continue to send in your thoughts and play along with us. We'd love to include your thoughts as a part of our show next week. But for now, we're setting aside Lunar the Silver Star, and we're randomly selecting the next retro game that we're going to be playing along with Kenny this time.
Maybe, if he comes back.
Where is he? The lake?
I guess.
Randomizing now. We're staying in the 90s, but we're going to the end of the era, 1999.
That's fine.
What consoles were popular during the late 90s?
N64.
Yep.
PlayStation.
Nope. Just
2.
N64.
Okay.
You having problems with your arm?
Yeah.
We're going to the N64 in 1999, published by and developed by, you probably haven't heard of them, Konami.
Again? Not again.
And it is an action-adventure game.
Oh, wait a minute. I know what this is.
What? Already?
Yeah, for sure.
It is the first 3D game in the series.
Yep. This will be interesting.
The game that we are playing for the next 7 days is a little game called Castlevania.
64.
It's also known as that, but it was just called Castlevania.
Oh, really?
Actually.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Castlevania for the N64. I've never played it. I think some people do not like it. So
this is our third Castlevania game?
On the show, I don't know. We played a Game Boy one. We played Symphony of the Night. So maybe, third one.
Okay, we'll talk about it more next week for sure. Yeah. But Castlevania has been a good thing on this show. But anytime you jump to 3D, that is a difficult jump for some franchises to do.
Yeah, some did not succeed. And we'll see if Konami
And we'll find out. We'll find out. All right, so grab a copy of Castlevania 64 and play it along with us this week.
Join us in Discord. We have a thriving community that we want you to be a part of. We just instated some new mods, and they're doing a great job. But we want you to be there to contribute to the discussion and let us know your thoughts on games of the week. Go to discord.gg/newgameplus.
We wouldn't be able to do what we do, 1, without Kenny, and 2, without our patrons. I know this episode was a lot more boring, a lot less punny.
There's no flair. There's no Kenny flair.
Yeah, there's no Kenny flair, and you've got to have Kenny flair for New Game Plus. We didn't have it this episode, and we're sorry, but blame it on him. We also can't do what we do without our patrons, and so want to take a moment and exclusively thank our producers for supporting us on the show. Our producers like Amarlian, Antonin, Ben, Brunt, Carrie, Captain Protein, Dan, Francesca Gimbin, Joey Jordan, Jay Robert, Justin Klin, Nick Nat, Corey, Maxima, Mr. Lattes, Nowell, Sajan, Secret Duck of Evermore, Shauna, Thomas, Unbelievable, William, and Zion. I didn't do it in one breath.
Kenny's better.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm not experienced with that. Also want to extend a special word of gratitude to our 2 directors, Brojim and Garlisle. Y'all are the real deal. Yes. And then want to welcome a new patron who has been a patron before, and the patrons coming back, joining us, Astral Soul. Welcome back to the club.
Welcome home.
Welcome home. You can follow us on our social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok. I really need to add that as well as YouTube. All of those are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we play Castlevania 64. Woo! Until then, I'm still Null.
I'm Quark.
And I'm Kenny. Oh, I should have done it in Gilbert Gottfried's voice. And I'm Kenny.
That sounds like Kenny's normal voice.
And this has been 2/3 of New Game Plus.